There you go. And welcome to the second of our player interview series here at Tiger Line Report at WoodwardTigers.com. I'm Rogelio Castillo, alongside Miss Chris Brown and Connor. And today we have the number one prospect on the Tigers Minor League Report prospect list. And to us, it was a no-brainer, but some people want to argue with us, but whatever, it's fine. I don't care. We have Colt Keith, or Colt Keith, if you will, and he's joining us on the podcast today. And we ask this question for anybody or for a first-time guest. What is your earliest baseball memory?
I don't have one specific memory, I would say, but there's a few glimpses from T-ball where all I can remember is just swinging as hard as I could and just kept running no matter what. Like any T-ball game. Oh, shoot. And the other one I do remember very clearly was T-ball, where my dad wasn't pitching. It was one of my buddy's dads, but we had the most stacked team ever. And our coach would throw too hard, I guess, and we got in trouble for it. But we would all just hit probably average 5 or 6 homers an inning because the fences were 150 feet. But just remember having fun with those guys. That was up in Southeast Ohio when I was really young. That was probably the first one, though, the first real memory I remember having really a lot of fun in baseball. So
awesome. So you're from Ohio, not Mississippi?
Yeah, I was born in Zanesville, Ohio, which is southeast Ohio, kind of near West Virginia border. It's a real small town, so.
Okay, so you've experienced the cold a little bit. So just kind of talking about your youth days, what was it like being Gatorade Player of the Year in Mississippi?
It was a great honor. I honestly didn't expect it because I knew I had the stats for it, and our team was a really good team. We had the 6A team, we weren't a 3A anything like that. So I knew I had everything to get it, but usually for me personally, that stuff just doesn't happen. I don't get the lucky stuff like that. Usually it goes to someone else, maybe at a bigger school or has a bigger name type deal. So I was really happy when I finally got that, and I was able to. That's just a huge thing to put beside my name. At the draft, they were talking about it. That was the first thing they say. Anything on Twitter, it's always the first thing they say. So it's great to get that. It's I got a really cool backpack and a trophy that I still have the backpack, but it was awesome. And I felt like I earned it. And so I was really happy to see that go my way.
No, and so you mentioned you grew up in Ohio, or at least you started in Ohio. I feel like from reading about you that you also ended up in Utah and Arizona before Mississippi. Is that right? Were there
other
places?
Yeah, so I was really blessed with parents that saw the need to get out of Southeast Ohio to play sports.
You didn't have to add that.
Yeah, so I wrestled. My dad he used to wrestle in college. He was a wrestling coach, so I wrestled, and I loved wrestling, but I also really loved baseball, and they saw that. So, and my brother was really good at school and really good at wrestling. And so they got us out of there, and they had a flexible jobs where we could move around. So the first move was to Utah, southern Utah, in a little town called St. George. It's about 2 hours from Las Vegas, and spent about 4 years there. And I really started to blossom in baseball, and that's where I started. I was always really good at wrestling, and baseball was kind of second. But I really started to get my butt kicked a little bit in wrestling out there, and I started to really blossom in baseball. And so what happened was I started in Utah playing all these tournaments and stuff, and we ended up playing in Vegas a lot more, or Phoenix a lot more, just because that's where all the better tournaments were, all the better players were. I actually played for a team called ABD, and I'm not sure what it stands for, but the coach was the coach at College Southern Nevada, that's where Bryce Harper went before he got drafted. And he suggested that we move to Phoenix for better competition in high school, potentially commit to a college there, if I can perform in the high school ranks there, and, potentially get drafted one day. But he basically said it's a better chance to go down there in that hotbed. And, he turned out to be right. I moved down there for my freshman year of high school. Did okay. Sophomore year came out, batted 515, 520 in the 6A baseball out there, which is really big deal. That year it was me, uh, Matthew Libator, Nolan Gorman. Those were the big three for the Gatorade Player of the Year. They ended up getting co-player of the year for Gorman and Libator, but I was up there with those guys. Ended up committing to Arizona State right there. And then my mom, so after I committed, my mom got a really good job offer in Mississippi where she could have a license here. And so we ended up making the move. We found a really nice high school down here in Biloxi. And my agent lives around here. He lives in Louisiana, but it's really close. So the move made sense for the family and my brother and I. And plus I was already committed to a college. So came down here junior and senior year of my high school years and played really well and ended up getting myself drafted.
Yeah, that's interesting because I kind of assumed that you were following around your mom for most of that and not actually, that your parents kind of making those sacrifices for you. Because I think about moving and I think about how tough it can be sometimes, especially, if you're a kid. But if you play sports and you happen to be really good at them, that's a good way to make friends. But like, was it ever a time where you had to move like in the middle of a season or something like that?
No. All these moves were coordinated really well after seasons or, timed really well, I guess. But yeah, it was a combination between my parents with the jobs and they would, weigh the positives and negatives of my brother going to a better school, getting better schooling and, me getting on a better team and getting around more scouts and et cetera. But no, I mean, personally for me, it wasn't a problem. I'm a really social guy. I mean, I made friends so fast everywhere. I mean, I have friends in every single state that I lived in and lifelong, so it wasn't a problem at all for me. My brother's very similar situation. He was a wrestler and didn't end up getting anywhere for wrestling, but now he goes to Ohio State for vet school, and he has friends from every single state. And it wasn't really a problem for us. I can see how it could have been a problem, but me and my brother happened to be really socially advanced for our ages, and we made friends really fast. It wasn't a problem. So.
And it kind of leads up to the draft day experience. I mean, talk us through how that was going. I mean, here you are. You knew, you were confident that you were going to get drafted. You had shown the ability, even as a pitcher too, and a lefty at that too, because it's always lefties that always attract interest. But talk about how the whole day went for you.
Well, usually people's stories are really positive. Mine had a really big positive, obviously getting in the Detroit Tigers system, which I'm really glad to be in and ended up working out perfectly. But, I saw myself and my agent saw me going into second to third round, somewhere around there. And once that passed and, people were calling, but they didn't expect me to take that kind of money. I guess we really were pushing that I wanted to go to school because just for the leverage type deal to get more money, I guess. But in my mind, I didn't want to go to school. But I was just kind of game plan that fell apart, kind of backfired on us. But in the fifth round, the Tigers called and asked, what the deal was. We were ready to go, and so gave the offer and it happened like that. But it was a roller coaster of emotions that day. It was, down, down, down. Went to go to college for 3 years, which a lot of guys not a problem. But for me, I really felt like I could get into pro ball and excel. But, college ain't too bad, but I didn't want to go to school. I hated school, man. But so ended up getting it done and signed, and that was it. I mean, it's lower than I wanted to, but, I ended up with the Detroit Tigers where they're in a rebuild stage and, I got a really good opportunity to get up there quick.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I was going to talk to you about that because I think around the draft time you were ranked to the people who do this sort of thing. You were ranked kind of like between the 50 and 75, I think, around there in terms of prospects in the draft, which is like a second round, early third rounder. And so, yeah, I was always curious if you guys had a number that you wouldn't come off of, or if it was just like the Tigers just like check it in and you were like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like, were there other teams saying like, we're gonna take you here and then to pass you over?
Yeah, there was a few of those, a few teams where they were going to pick me and then they ended up picking someone else and then they ended up not having another pick for a few more rounds, stuff like that. Um, And that was terrible. It happened like 3 times. Like they were supposed to pick me, and then ended up picking someone else. That probably had a couple of things made that happen. Probably because the COVID year, I only played like, I don't know, like 10 games or something, or 8 games in my senior year. Didn't play the best I wanted to. Like, just never got to the groove. And obviously, I was a high school guy in a shortened draft. It's a riskier pick. But I don't blame anybody. It's whatever, and I ended up in the situation where I'm at. I'm happy with it. So.
Well, and for people like us, we pay very close attention to the Tigers, for the most part, and for it was a really unusual pick at the time. For the Tigers, they almost never take high school kids after the first, second round, and I almost thought that was like, okay, this has got to be insurance for like if they don't sign Gage Workman or something like that. And then I found out you signed, I was like, wow, that's awesome, because once those high school kids get past the second, third round, you assume they're going to school, and so yeah, I mean. And I think the result, I think the Tigers must be absolutely thrilled, and hopefully you're itching to prove the other teams wrong.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I am itching to prove the other teams wrong. Hopefully one day, I get the Mookie Betts treatment where they're like, "How'd this guy go in the 5th round?" I mean, he's one of the best players in baseball, and that's my goal. That's one of my goals, is to teams to look back and be like, "What were we doing? What went wrong?" And hopefully change their ways and pick some riskier picks, and hopefully they work out more. But that's my goal, is to be the Mookie Betts type guy.
Yeah, so I had the question, when you got drafted or going through the draft process, was there any talk of you being a two-way player, even as just like a reliever, or were you just sticking to third base?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys talking about pitching and maybe two-waying until I pick one up in maybe high A or double A, I guess. But for me personally, I didn't want to pitch. My arm always hurt. Hated it. I didn't hate it. I loved pitching at the time, but like after my arm hurt, it ended up my shoulder came out of place or separated last year. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know, but my shoulder always hurt. My elbows always hurt. I could throw hard for a couple innings and just didn't have the stamina because I didn't train like a pitcher. Didn't do what I was supposed to do. But I always loved hitting. I felt it came easier to me than pitching, and I always had success with it. So, I saw myself as a hitter, and teams would say, maybe we want him to pitch, and me and my agent were kind of like, if you pay me a few $1 million, we'll think about it. But we're going to go there for hitting. I think that was a lot of teams knew that going into the draft as well.
And one of the things that stood out to me was even in high A, first year in high A 2021, where you were just adjusting and getting used to, you even showing the ability to hit to all fields. Then to start off the way you did, be one of only 4 Tigers to hit 300 for the year, and have such a great on base presence. How much did it? I mean, it sounds like a very stupid question, but how much did it suck to have that injury in the middle of the season where you figured out high A? I mean, you were there was a game in Lansing. I remember you just balls were just going everywhere, and you were able to hit and just work the counts really well. And something for us watching the prospect system for 20 years, just to see a hitter of your age be that young to go and have that great pitch recognition.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I figured out high A. I would say I figured out myself and how my swing mechanics work for me. And I think it's just I matured. Went from a small little 18-year-old that, not small, but skinny at least, and never learned how to lift or eat correctly, to learn how to eat correctly, learn how to, see 98 and be able to make contact with it. I think that just comes with time. But, you guys can look at the stats and all the metrics. I mean, I was a base hit guy. I was a slap hitter type guy. I batted above 300, but didn't have much power. And then, I really wanted to have power. So I really looked at approach and, my swing mechanics and figured it out. And you're right. Like I went up to high A and I raked, and, I was feeling great. At one point I was up to like 340 at one point, and I started lining out a lot and went down slowly, as baseball that happens in baseball. But, when I got hurt, it really was terrible. I can't. I don't under. I just my whole time that it happened, I was literally like, how could I be so fragile that I just dive back to first base and my shoulder does this? That's unbelievable. And I'm thinking, 2-3 weeks, I'm out. That's fine. Get back in here, and get to Double A and keep on going. But it took forever to rehab. It took longer than expected. I think it's one of those injuries that just take a while, depending on person to person on how bad I guess the injury was. And mine just took a while to get back to throw. It was my throwing shoulder, which didn't help. But yeah, man, it was bad, but it was a really good learning experience, and that taught me that I need to focus on taking care of my body, my nutrition, and especially in season, because if you don't do that in season, you deteriorate really fast. You get weak, and then that's when you get hurt. So it sucked, but it was a learning experience. I'm glad it happened while I was so young, and I'm able to learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again going forward, or do the best I can, do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again, at least.
Yeah, so take me through a little bit through the rehab process. Was it more strengthening, mobilizing? Like, what were some of the things that you were working on during that process? And how do you feel with some of the changes in the organization? Like, now do you feel like there's more resources with nutrition and weightlifting? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, well, my rehab process started with just resting and letting it heal. I think with what happened to me, there was just a ton of inflammation and fluid in there, and there's not a lot of blood flow, and it just takes time. It takes time to get to heal. And then after it started to heal and, it's feeling better, I was getting a lot of fluid out of there. I started strengthening and stabilizing, and, keeping that joint stable and strong with muscles. That took another month and a half, 2 months. And then I started throwing, and I mean, throwing hurt really bad. Then the next day I'd feel a little better, like barely any better, better, until there was no pain at all. It felt good. And now I'm doing, stabilization and strengthening exercises probably for the rest of my life, to make sure it doesn't happen again. And it was just a long 4 months. It was mentally taxing. It was physically taxing. And, I was really glad I was able to get healthy before the fall league and be able to go out there and perform. But to address your other question with the strengthening and the resources with Detroit, it's insane. I don't know if they gotten better in the last couple of years. I've never been hurt before, but I had everything I needed. We had PTs in there answering every question I had, and looking back, how the questions were really stupid, and selfish, but they answered them, because they understood the situation, and at the end of the day, they got me healthy. I mean, I was for my injury and how bad I was hurting at the beginning, to get me healthy in that little time and get me out to the fall league and be able to stay healthy there. It was top of the line. I mean, and now they got a bunch of nutritionists, and that's what they're focusing on, and also lifting and mobility and stretching and stuff like that. I mean, they got it down. They got the best guys in the game in there, and like, I was satisfied from every aspect. I didn't have any complaints about the entire thing, and my shoulder was killing me every day, and I have no complaints. I got through it. And looking back, there's nothing more that they could have done. Like, it was the best. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So we were going to ask you about that, the fall league. How good did it feel to be able to get back out there on the field, and let alone that, but you're also there basically kind of like an all-star league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it was awesome. I was kind of nervous at the beginning, just because I haven't seen a baseball in 4 months. Got, I thought it was going to be hitting was going to hurt me, and I wasn't going to be able to hit, and it was going to take an adjustment period. But I hit the ground running, hitting, and just slowly, got better and better as the fall league went on. And by the end, I had all the power I needed. I could put balls out of the yard. I was seeing 90.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And I was seeing it easy, and seeing curveballs and standing on my backside, and I was crushing baseballs. I was hitting lasers. It was easy. It was fun. Especially playing those guys. It was great. But what killed me is, I guess, not seeing those ground balls, or seeing any type of live balls off the bat. Man, I don't know what it was, but when the ball would be hit to me at third, and my my eyes would just go blurry for some reason. Like I couldn't see the ball. It was so weird, and it got better and better because I just took ground balls every day. And then, it would get really good. Towards the end, I started getting a little better, and I was seeing it better and being able to make first moves. But when I first went out there, I think just the 4 months of seeing nothing off a live bat, I think that really hurt me defensively. So I definitely didn't have my best showing, but hitting wise, I felt great. I mean, I think that's because during the rehab process, I was able to swing with no problem. So I kept swinging the entire time, but defensively, not being able to throw and obviously not playing games out there, I think that took a toll defensively.
Yeah, and so you've played second base some, you played third base a little bit. I have speculated that you may, as you continue to get bigger and stronger, you may eventually move to the outfield. But I want you to I want to give you the opportunity to tell me why I'm dumb and wrong about that.
Okay. From the outside looking in, I can see how you would think that. I'm not opposed to it as long as I stay in the lineup. For me, I think I can stick at second and third. And, I talked to Alan Trammell after the fall league, and we kind of talked about it. We had a long conversation about my weight, my muscle mass, my mobility, my, flexibility, my quickness. And, we kind of decided that I don't think I need to get any bigger. I'm as big as I need to be and strong as I need to be. I need to get quicker side-to-side movement and, be able to stick in the infield and play at a high level, at a Gold Glove level. I'm going to need to be a little quicker and more agile. And so this offseason, I was about 245 at the fall league, big, buffed out, obviously not doing a lot of cardio for 4 months, just bodybuilding up in Lakeland or down in Lakeland and just getting huge, ready for the fall league. And this offseason, I've really focused on cleaning up my diet, eating really healthy, just a lot of protein and just keeping my muscles, shredding off a little fat. And I'm sitting around like 230 right now, 225, 230. And, I can already tell a difference. I'm so much quicker and it's easier to move and run. And even swinging, I feel like I have a more aggressive and quick swing just because I have so much or much less turning side to side. I can use my arms more and stay inside the ball and manipulate the barrel. So I think you guys will see a big difference this year. A lot of guys, even my agent, he was gone for a while and came back and he was like, man, you look slimmer. Like I can see you playing second base this year a lot. I can see you play third base whenever you want, but outfield for him and for me is out of the question. As long as I stay like how I am and I can stay healthy at this weight, I don't see a problem with it, especially with my arm being back to 100% after my shoulder injury and maybe even a little better. Like I can stick at third base. I can get the ball over there really well and, probably above average in the big leagues and be able to, throw lasers across the infield. But I right now, unless they sign somebody at third base or second base or too many infielders, I don't see it happening. I could stay in the infield, but, if they do sign somebody, I just want them to get me to the lineup. And because for me, I'm a hitter first player and I feel like I can contribute to some wins.
And that's one of those things too, where defensively, talk about when you're out there taking the grounders and the approach. When you're working with Trammell, and there's specific drills that you're like, you know what, I'm going to master this drill because this is something that's going to help me with my side-to-side range. So if I'm throwing on the run, because we've seen Trammell a lot in Erie. I mean, I remember even seeing him at West Michigan. He was there. He was talking to everybody, and it seems like he's just like it's like a sort of baseball prophet, just teaching wisdom to everybody. And talk about that a little bit in terms of just what defensive drills really this offseason really helped you.
Yeah, I think for me and Trammell, what we were working on is just taking ground balls. If they hit a slow roller, treat it like a slow roller and throw it over there like a slow roller and just work on it. Because for me personally, I slacked off defensively when my younger years, when I was in high school, didn't take ground balls. I'd go out there and take BP all day, but no ground balls. It just wasn't a priority for me. And, I had nobody reinforcing that it needed to be a priority. But, as soon as I got into Detroit's system, got around Trammell, got around Angel Baroa, and, it was just, we need to get your defense in check. And it's just taking ground balls every day. I've taken, I don't know how many, but thousands and thousands of ground balls this offseason. It's been my main focus. And, A person like me, I'm really determined and I'm really disciplined with that. And, I'll continue to take those all through my career, and it'll just stack on top of each other and I'll get better and better and better until I'm where I need to be.
Awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the off season. So you talked about slimming down. Like, do you go through any of explosive drills? Like, are you doing a lot of box jump work? Are you doing broad jumps? Like, what have you changed from this off season from last off season?
Yeah. So this off season, the workouts are pretty similar. A lot of jumping, a lot of weighted band running type stuff. We have this thing called a Vertimax where, it's like this bungee cord thing, and you basically you move around and it just strengthens around your hips and it makes them quicker and makes your calf muscles a little quicker. A lot of sprint drills, running side to side, stuff like that. But, I did all that last year, but my focus this year was a lot on my nutrition, and I'm just taking in a lot less calories. Same amount of protein, just, a lot cleaner stuff. So, instead of, I don't know, a 30 count or chicken nuggets at Chick-fil-A, I'd go home and, cook chicken and rice and maybe a steak and eggs. It's just not a lot of, fried food and not a lot of fat, just slimming down. Um, and I'd say I lost a little bit of muscle, but majority of the weight loss I've had is a lot of fat. Just trying to keep my core slim, quick, and be able to make those quick movements you need at third base and even on the base pass.
I think Connor was saying that he spied you posting a lot of pictures of steak on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. I'm a big steak connoisseur. I love steak. It tastes the best, but I get my fair share of chicken and fish and eggs in there. But you know, I think about 2 or 3 times a week, I have a big fat steak. So
Nice.
we
Yeah,
got a few in the fridge ready to go.
we were joking about nicknaming you Colt Beef. The one thing I wanted to just discuss, the last basically thing for me was just your general approach as a hitter. We have a buddy who was down there in Lakeland scouting, and he kind of raised his eyebrows when he saw you the first. I don't know. It felt like you were held back in extended spring for like a month, maybe a couple weeks. I don't remember. And then he saw you and he was like, "Wow, I'm really impressed with this kid. I remember him saying distinctly that you were patient but not passive. And I'm just kind of curious how you approach your plate appearances."
Yeah. So again, me that first year to me now, completely night and day different hitters. I think then I was so, I guess I would use the word, I was able to use my athleticism to be able to manipulate the barrel so well. I mean, I was using a really light and small bat, and so I was late on everything. So I did that. And then as I played and got better and better, I think my first month in low A when I came out of extended spring was terrible. I was striking out too much. Wasn't hitting the balls any hard. Like I was just playing really passive, trying to get walked really. And as I kept playing, I started to figure it out. I started being able to get hits. And what I figured out was I was able to get a hit on a fastball middle away over that shortstop every time. Whenever I wanted to, I was able to do that because I was able to stay on my backside. So I did that a lot, as much as I could. I took advantage, and I didn't focus on power. I didn't focus on getting the ball over the fence because I just felt like it was so far away. I just wanted to do step by step and get my average above 200. So it doesn't look so bad, but also not strike out with runners on scoring position at every game, and I'm batting second and third all the time, lead off. I just wasn't performing, and I felt terrible about it, hated it. So I just wanted to contribute to the team, get base hits. But now after that last season, I realized, I'm looking at Austin Riley and Rafael Devers in the big leagues, and I'm like, I'm so far away. I need to do something to make a jump. And, that was my approach and my power. And what I did was I talked to Jeff Branson. He's one of our hitting coaches. And he said to expect, if a guy throws 95, expect a 99-mile-per-hour fastball down the middle, no matter what he's throwing. That way you'll be on time for everything. You'll be able to get the head out, and, you need to buy into he's going to throw 199 right here. And so I started doing that, and that's one thing that really stuck with me throughout my career. I stay with that. And, I was able to go into West Michigan the next year and start pulling baseballs hard, start putting backspin on baseballs to all parts of the field. And, then there was an adjustment where I was too pulley, where I was coming out of the box, pulling to right field. So I made the adjustment where I can stay on it. And I was so early, I was able to recognize the baseballs now, and I was able to hit them to left, center, right, depending on what they were throwing. And, I'd say if you wanted to simplify my approach, I'm just expecting fastball. If he throws a fastball, I'm going to hit it to right center, 450 feet. And if he throws a curveball, I'm going to stay back, adjust, and hit the ball hard. And, that could go anywhere over the field. And that's my approach. That's it. It's that simple. And I let my athleticism and I let my work take over when I get in the box. I don't really think about it. And other than, this guy's going to throw hard right here, be on time. That's it.
I remember in May against when you guys were in Lansing, and I think 3 for 5 or something along those lines. But that was there was a great example of that I think Lansing had that junk ball left-hander. I can't remember that guy that was like throwing like 80, 83 or something along the lines.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And so, but I saw that from the first at bat to the last, you made adjustments on the fly because the rest of the team struggled against that, but you were able to, and that's one of those things where as soon as you get out there, you're like, oh, okay, this guy he's not going to give me anything good to hit. Great. I got to deal with this 85 mile an hour. I don't know why he's doing that, but at any rate, it's one of those things where as soon as you get out on the plate and kind of visualize that, you still keep that vision in there despite whatever junk may be going up there.
Yeah. Yeah, with that guy, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He ate us up every single time he pushed against us. Yeah. But, we made adjustments as we went along. But, we only face a guy so many times, especially a reliever. But he topped about 85, and his junk was about 40 miles per hour. I don't know how it's possible. It was floating in there. So, when you think about it, he's really throwing 99 because – when you're sitting on a 60 mile per hour curveball and he throws 85, that looks like 100. Like you can't hit that. So what we started doing is we just shortened it up, stayed back, and me personally, I sat 88, 89 mile per hour fastball ready for it, and then if he threw that floater in there, just stayed back and put a barrel on it. And I don't know if that's going to equal home runs against that guy, but it's definitely going to get base hits and longer at bats, and you're not just going to strike out on 3 pitches. I think the team I think the team really took that approach, and we ended up getting to him a couple times. But first couple times he ate us up, and the first couple times he ate me up really hard. But I made that adjustment quick, and so did the team.
Yeah, but I think I mentioned this a couple times on our show. The thing that impressed me most about you as a young hitter was the number of times I saw you hit like a really hard line drive, basically down the left field line, which is just something you don't see a lot of younger hitters go the opposite way with force like that. And what you're saying, waiting back and being able to hit the curveballs every direction, I think that'll serve you well, no matter what level you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those ones I hit down the left line, I'll tell you right now, they're by accident. They're not on purpose. Just so we're on the same page. Like, well, I'm not that good. But when there's a guy and I'm surprised and I'm like, nope, that's a take. And then I'm like, oh wait, that's going to be a strike. And I'm so far back that I'm able to just put the barrel on it. And I just shoot it down that left line. I've done it a couple times. I know what you're talking about, but every time I'm usually like, where'd that go? Did I even, did I put it in play? Was it a foul ball? And then I looked down the left field line and that's where it went. I think that's just a byproduct of my approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said. I think it speaks to the barrel control, which is impressive. Even if you're not meaning to do it, if you can make a mistake and still get a double, that's pretty good. We got a Discord chat for Tigers fans, and one of you mentioned your bat. You were using a small light bat or whatever. One of our people in there actually wanted to know what size bat you use. He said, "I'd be willing to bet he uses a 35-inch bat."
No. I my first year I was 33-30, which really small, especially for me being kind of taller. It felt like a little toothpick or like a wet newspaper trying to hit with it. Nothing behind it. But now I used, and it was actually a light, I guess you call it balanced, so it felt lighter than it even should have. Now I use a 33.5, 31, and it's more end loaded type. So feels like a 34, but it's a little shorter bat. So more barrel control for me, in my opinion. But maybe as I progress, I use a bigger bat. I don't know. I play around with a few 34s, but I think I always just end up using the 33.5, what I'm comfortable with.
And outside of baseball, last question: what do you do when you're not playing baseball? Are you a golfer? What kind of things kind of help you take away the focus?
Parker Meadows has got me into golfing a little bit, so we'll see this year. I don't know, depending on who's on the team. I don't know. I was in the fall league. Parker got me into golfing, so I liked it a little bit. It's expensive. It's tough. I get frustrated easy, and then I start swinging too hard. But it was fun, go out there with the boys. But if there's ever like a stream or a pond available in Lakeland, there's a lot. I go fishing a lot. Bass fishing. There's a few guys that love bass fishing. I do that. I hang out with my fiance if she's in town. A lot of, well, depending on how I feel, some video games here and there. Some Fortnite. Get some boys online from out. I play. I'm play with a few guys from Utah, Arizona, Ohio. So we get a little squad going and play that. But other than that, just a lot of resting and a lot of eating. That's about it.
Fun fact about Erie: if you end up starting in Erie, that a lot of people from Pittsburgh go up to Erie to fish. So there's some pretty good spots in Erie where people fish.
I heard about it.
Yeah, and Greg Gagne, the Erie broadcaster, told us about that, and it was strange to think that people would vacation further, but they call it up north up there, if you will.
Yeah.
But Colt, again, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully the next couple of weeks before you get down the spring training and start you get some. I'm sure you're eager to go, man, and we're looking forward to watching you play. And it was one of those things where Chris and I, it was watching a player of your age. Like I said, for us, I mean, as far as I can remember, we haven't seen anything like this, and it's really, really great to see that how much you're dedicated to the game. And again, we're just as evaluate or amateur evaluators, whatever, awesome. But it's just like fans, it's really exciting.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me, and keep up the good work. I love watching you guys' Twitter and looking at all the tweets. They're interesting. It keeps me updated, so I love it.
Appreciate it. Thanks again, Keith.
Good
All right,
luck.
see you later.
See you, man.
Thank you, guys.
See ya. All right, so that was Colt Keith, and I ended the broadcast saying Keith instead of Colt, but that was my intention. But thanks so much for everybody who gave us thanks to Adam on our Discord for the question. And so, yeah, that was Tigers infielder Colt Keith, and he's going to stay in the infield, gentlemen.
Yeah, no, I was very encouraged by that to hear that he's dedicated to doing that now, and I mean that would be ideal, right? You get a third baseman who can hit like that. That would be outstanding. So I'm happy to hear that.
So far, the theme in our interview series is just excellent baseball knowledge and confidence. I love it so far. So I'm excited to see those two guys play this year.
Yeah, me too. And again, one of the things that, again, if you haven't checked out our interview with Justin Henry Malloy, this is the reason why I subscribe to the channel. So please subscribe to not only Woodward Tigers, but to Tiger Minor Report. We want to get to 1,000 and 1,000 followers and more, get out there. And of course, this is what our Patreon money goes towards, us going and traveling around and be able to see these players. And again, watching Colt Keith play last year, early on was awesome. And again, to be able to sustain that kind of ability at high A after, in 2021, he got off to a slow start, but you could see the adjustments and you could see that stuff going. So, so if you want to check out the audio podcast form, go over to Woodward Tigers and subscribe there as well. Thanks so much. And we'll have our regularly scheduled program per normal, and have a good afternoon, everybody. Well, this is we recorded this afternoon, but either way, thanks for watching.